Welcome back to another episode of the Humble Rising podcast. I am your host, Adi V. Vargas. I'm so excited today because I am sharing more about my best-selling book, Your Time to Rise: Unlearn Limiting Beliefs, Unlock Your Power, and Unleash Your Truest Self. It is a #1 new release on Amazon in multiple categories, and I am thrilled that it has been received in the way that it has. I wanted to share with you some of the responses I've been getting from people because I think it might be helpful to you, not just if you're reading the book and you're looking forward to reading, but also if you are thinking about reading the book or you're waiting for the audiobook. I wanted to share highlights from others in terms of what they found most resonant and to give you something to think about and take away as you continue on in this first quarter of 2025. We're now in February as I'm recording this. We are in February already. What are you going to do the rest of the quarter? And so some of these takeaways will be something to think about as you move forward through the rest of the month, through the rest of the quarter, intentionally. So let me start by sharing that I wrote this book, and I've said this before on the podcast. If you've seen me speak in other venues or on LinkedIn Live or one of my videos, you know why I wrote this book. So this book I wrote with women of color who are professionals in fast-paced environments who are also mothers. It was intentional, essentially people who are similar to me. I wrote this with my community in mind, especially including that motherhood piece. I say that to also say that, of course, if you are a mother, you're going to relate to this book. If you are a woman of color in a fast-paced environment, you're going to relate to this book, even if you're not a mom. If you're a mother and you're not a woman of color, you will relate to this book. That's important to remember. I wrote the book. I am a first-generation Latina. I have that lens. I always will have the lens of who I am. We all have that. You always have that perspective and lens because it's essential to who you are. That's one thing to keep in mind, is that I wrote this book through the lens of a first-generation Latina lawyer who always was working in fast-paced environments, who is the mother of 3 children. At the time of the writing of the book, my kids were a little bit younger, because it takes time for the book to be edited, for it to be printed, for it to be distributed, for it to be available for publication. So understanding that, my kids are a little younger then, a little bit older, but not by much. And the feedback and response I've gotten, I've had so many people reach out and say that the book is a doable book. It's a digestible book. It is not a book that you read 10 pages and then you're like, this is a lot. My brain can't take all this in right now. This is overwhelming. This is too much information. It is not that kind of book because I weave in stories with practical things you can do. This book is intended to be your starting point when you are at some kind of inflection point or crossroads in your life. For me, one of my first major inflection points in my life that really fueled my desire to more deeply know myself, truly deeply know myself, beyond titles, prestige, reputation, what I had done so far in my career. And my critical inflection point and crossroad period of time was when I had my first child, my first of 3 children. And I felt like my identity was unraveling inside of me. I felt like I was literally suffocating and dying. And I was not physically, that was not true physically. Emotionally and mentally, I was so lost. Who am I without being this lawyer working all the time? And then who am I? Am I just a mom? I don't want to just be a mom. Who am I underneath all of this stuff you accumulate, including titles, accomplishments, the check boxes, doing the things you're supposed to do. And you don't even know that you're doing it because you're supposed to do it. You're not aware of that in that way. You are not. So that is who I wrote the book for, though. People that are in these inflection points in their life where they're either lost or they're uncertain about something. What used to work for them no longer works anymore. Something has changed within them. Let me tell you, when I saw Wicked and Elphaba, played by the incredible incomparable Cynthia Erivo, one of the best vocalists in the world. Tell me you don't agree. When she sings Defying Gravity towards the end of that movie and the music gets quiet and she says, something has changed within me. Something is not the same. She literally is saying something has shifted in her. And then she says, I'm through with playing by the rules of someone else's game. I mean, okay, I'm not going to do her voice justice. Please, she's Cynthia Erivo. However, the lyrics are exactly what I'm talking about. Something has changed within me. Something is not the same. And I'm through with playing by the rules of someone else's game. I'm through with that. And maybe I have to unpack what the game is and what I played and how I played it and why I played it that way. Yes, which is part of this book, is gaining awareness. We have to level up our awareness, our conscious awareness of what we've been doing habitually and subconsciously. That's part of the framework we use in this book. You're taking yourself from this place of, I'm not sure, something has shifted in me. The success I've experienced, these accomplishments have kept me going. Historically, have felt amazing. I'm getting more of that, or I'm in the same place and I don't feel the way that I used to feel about it. It doesn't feel as good as it used to feel. Or I've now reached this place that I thought would be it. This is the place I fought and climbed to get to. I worked very hard. I sacrificed so much. And it's where I wanted to be. And then you get there, or you're there for a certain period of time, and you start feeling like something is amiss, something is off. And you no longer feel the fulfillment that you used to feel, or the meaning. You start getting a little detached and things start feeling empty and hollow for you. You're now looking for more fulfillment and you're wondering, what's wrong with me? I should be so grateful for all I have. And I've worked hard to get here. We have to remember to hold space for the gratitude and your desire for something different, because you yourself inside have changed. You had been making that change inside internally for quite some time. You just weren't aware of it yet. And now you're getting a little bit of awareness, which is that whisper that says, hey, something is not right here. Hey, something has changed within you. Hey, explore that further. Maybe that could lead to something different that feels good. It feels good in your bones. It's just a matter of it feeling differently and feeling more aligned with who you really are and what you deeply now desire, which you may not have desired before. That's really why I wrote this book, is to meet you where you are at, if you are at that type of inflection point, crossroads moment in your life. And you have this feeling, something is up. I feel lost. I don't know what's going on. What is happening? That's really how I describe it. It's what is going on here? Why do I feel like this? This does not feel normal to me. And what I'm here to tell you is, oh, it is so normal. We just don't talk about it enough. This is what so many people go through, but we just don't talk about the multiple inflection points and identity that we hit in our lives over time. And I share this in the book. You have multiple transitions, life and career transitions over your lifetime, not just one or two. There are multiple, and you learn something from each one. So the framework I provide for moving through an inflection point to get you to level up your awareness, to become more clear in what is happening, some of the causes and the beliefs that have kept you where you are, or the beliefs that brought you to where you are. Because let's be very clear, there are plenty of beliefs that you hold and thoughts that you hold and habits you have that have made you successful. The way that you did it has gotten you this far. I'm going to say it. I'm going to bet that the way that you functioned and how hard you pushed yourself absolutely brought you success, absolutely brought you visibility, absolutely brought you mentors and sponsors who were like, sky's the limit for her. She's going far because she executes ridiculous level work. She knows how to talk to people. She knows how to get people behind a cause. She knows how to share a vision and share a strategy. She knows how to hire people. She knows how to manage people. I mean, this is like creme de la creme, but you know what I mean when I say that the way that you have functioned in many ways has brought you much success, has brought you exactly what you said you had wanted. And so when you get the things you want, you're like, wait, but why does it not feel great anymore? It did feel great, but something has shifted. That's who I wrote the book for. I want this book to be your starting point. Because one of the questions I often get is, if I'm in this place, where do I start? Yeah, you start with this book. You start with this book. And if you are interested in one-on-one coaching with me, you don't have to read the book, but I'm telling you that when you read the book and we coach together, game changer, because you will have a language. You will have a language that we will share. You will know what I mean when I say alignment. You will know what I mean when I say fulfillment. You will know what I mean when I say purpose. Because purpose began a bad rap. Purpose gets a bad rap. I have a specific purpose for being on this earth. And it's in the book. I believe that everyone does have a life purpose. Everyone has a purpose to live a full, true, fully expressed life. Everyone has a purpose to live a life that feels good to them. If everyone would focus on feeling alive and living a life true to them, that's a purposeful life. That's an intentional life. That's a courageous life, because to do what is true for you and to be what is true for you, to be who you really are, is to be courageous, is to be brave. Because most people will continue on a treadmill or a hamster wheel or do the things that they should do and they're supposed to do and that they're expected to do, and what a good person would do, and what a good employee would do, and what a good mom would do. I use that word good in quotes. If you're listening, I put quotes around good, because we've been trained and programmed to believe there's only one way to be a quote unquote good mother. And I talk about that in the book. And it is making us suffer too much because we're putting too much unnecessary pressure on ourselves. And we then feel stressed and overwhelmed and overburdened by the pressure. And we forget to think about purpose. We forget to think about purpose. Why am I doing this? What am I doing this for? What purpose does this serve in my life? And how do I want to live more intentionally? One of the promises of the book is that you will not only be able to become more aware, have more clarity, have a starting point, meaning you will know what to do now versus staying stuck and staying lost. You will have a starting point for where to go next. You will know what your next right step is. You will know that when you finish this book. My hope for you is that you're moving towards a life that is more aligned, and that because it is more aligned with truth and now with expectation, because it is more aligned with truth, your life is more fulfilling. To live in truth is to intentionally shift things to be aligned with truth. And gaining more inner alignment, you will experience more fulfillment and more joy. So the book has come out, and the feedback I've been getting has really been inspiring to me. It highlighted for me some of the points of the book. And I realized sometimes the simplest things can be the most powerful things. A friend, a fellow coach, read the book, and they were talking about certain things that resonated. And I'll share just a few of them with you. One of them is, I say that in my book, is doing nothing is a decision. When you decide to stay where you are, you're deciding to do that. When you decide to do nothing, that's still an intentional decision. You have to think about, what are the costs to me if I continue to do nothing? I'm deciding that. Do I want to decide differently, or do I not want to decide differently? Well, those are all intentional choices. Those are conscious choices that you're making. And what happens is we say that, well, what do you mean, Adivi? You mean I decide to be exhausted? And my answer to you will be absolutely yes. That will be my answer to you. You come to coaching because there's some kind of transformative experience you need. That's why you come, because what you're doing and the way you're working and the way you're moving through life is not working for you anymore. And you're looking for a partner in that journey to help you move along to have that transformative experience. So when you decide that you're not going to do anything about you being tired and exhausted and almost burnt out, and you stay where you are, and then it gets worse, that's a decision. And I say that as someone who experienced the depths of burnout and the depths of depression and anxiety. That, yes, I made decisions that got me to that place. Now, do I think it's my fault that I was depressed? No, it's not my fault. Those are different. But I did make a series of decisions and continued to ignore the signs that I was in trouble. I ignored those signs. I pushed those aside. I got too much stuff to do. I don't have time for that. I don't have time to do any of these other things. But that wasn't true. That wasn't factually true. It felt true to me, but not factually true. So doing nothing is a decision. I love that my friend picked up on that. The other one that she highlighted is that we aren't our parents. Now, in the book, I talk a lot about childhood. I talk a lot about limiting beliefs that we may hold due to how we were raised and what we were told or not told, but just picked up, what we internalized over time. And beliefs that were reinforced or introduced to us earlier on in our careers that then shaped how we thought of ourselves and how we talk to ourselves further on in our careers. But to remember that the survival mode you often feel like you're in, like you're going from day to day, day to day, day to day, and you can't get any personal me time. You feel like you can't come up for air. You can't take a breath. You feel like I just have too much to do. And if I'm resting, I'm not doing the things I have to do. And it feels like a waste of time. Even that belief, rest is unproductive, which I talk about in Your Time to Rise. That's a habit. Your body has learned a habit and your mind has learned a habit to be in survival mode. But as I share in the book, I come from humble beginnings. My parents had to be in survival mode. They had to be in survival mode. They had to. They had no choice. But you're not in survival mode. If you're reading this book, you're not in survival mode. Now, hear me when I say survival mode. Survival mode is what I say. When I say survival mode, I mean you are working a job. You have to put food on the table. There's no investments in real estate. There's no stock options. There's no stock that you've invested in. You're not watching the stock market because you have no money there. You're focusing on your feeding your family, making sure your children get a great education, working, being there for your family, working, putting food on the table, working. That's what they did. They were just trying to make it work. That is survival mode, is when you are trying to survive and you're trying to support your family when you have two small children. Survival mode is not, I have a fast-paced job at a premier corporation, company, or law firm, and I am just exhausted and I'm in survival mode because I just have so much work and I have so much things to do. And do not confuse survival mode. And I know this is hard to hear for some of you because some of you are like, no, what do you mean? I'm just trying to get to one day to the next. Yes, you are, but you have means to handle a lot of that. You have more means than a lot of other people do. So please, let's be honest about where we are and how we are not our parents. I'm first generation, so I'm definitely going to talk to my other first gens. You're not your parents. You were born here. You have more opportunities. Don't be like, I'm in survival mode and I feel like I can't. You are not your parents. You don't have the same experience. You have more means. You have more opportunities. You have more resources. Don't get it twisted. Does it mean that I'm saying it's your fault for the position you're in? No, I'm saying be aware of that difference. Be aware of the difference, because if you are not aware of the difference, you go into hopeless, helpless victimhood, and your parents would not even allow that. And you know that because your parents would never victimize themselves. Don't feel bad for me. Don't feel bad for me, right? You know they would say that, so don't do that to yourself. But you are not your parents. And we have to be really careful about the mindsets we adopt that would be similar to what our parents' mindsets were to survive. No. That is not the game we're playing anymore. I talk about that in Your Time to Rise. I talk about the mindsets we actually do have to shift. What are the beliefs that we have to unbelieve to move forward? Because I always say it's so easy to learn new things. It's a lot harder to unlearn something that's been ingrained in you for a very long time. And even more difficult to unlearn a belief that's gotten you this far. Very challenging. and so doable. It is so doable. If you become more aware of it and you start shifting that belief into something that aligns more with how you want to live, and then you start acting on that belief. The fastest way to embodying a new belief is through action. It's not through thinking, it's through doing. It's letting your body and your mind feel how it can be done differently. That's the key there. And the last one I want to share with you, the last tidbit my friend shared that she thought was really resonant, which I think will resonate with all of you, is that any change starts with self-awareness. So you cannot change something you're not aware of. Before you start to shift anything in your life, you have to be aware that that's what you want to shift. You have to know why that's important to you, and you have to know what the direction is. It's helpful to have a direction. So you need to know, what is it that you truly want to change at its root? So if I want to be less reactive in the morning meaning I get up and I immediately look at my phone. Am I immediately sending texts? I'm checking my email. I'm already on the reactivity bus because I'm responding instead of leading anything in my life at that point. So instead of sleeping with my phone next to my pillow, which I used to do, or the phone on the nightstand, I would maybe not put the phone within arm's reach so that when I woke up in the morning, it's not the first thing I would grab. Now, you may say, but what about an alarm clock? No, you go get a real alarm clock. Go on Amazon, $15, $10, $20. Get yourself an alarm clock, and they have cool sounds like the ocean. They have nature sounds, birds. You can do the sunrise. Get $10, $15 alarm clock that works. So you don't have to rely on your phone for the time or the alarm. And you put your phone somewhere else. So when you wake up in the morning, you decide, I'm going to wake up and I'm going to get out of bed. I don't have my phone with me. I'm not instantly attending to everyone else's needs via email, via text, or whatever it is. I'm going to go take care of my hygiene first. I am going to do something for 10 minutes. It could be, I'm going to go get coffee. I'm going to go get my tea. I'm going to drink some water. If you work out, I'm going to go do my workout. Now, if you work out outside of your home, take your phone. However, I don't check my phone. I just have it with me in case, but I've trained myself to not check that phone before I go work out. After my workout, you sure bet I'm checking my phone, but I've already done an hour and a half of me time in the morning. And it doesn't have to be an hour and a half. It could be 30 minutes. It could be 20. It could be 10. But the whole point of this is that nothing will change unless you're aware of what the root issue is and you understand why it's important for you to resolve it or to improve that part of your life. And you understand and you feel convicted that you can no longer continue the way that you're continuing, meaning there no longer is an alternative. If there's a reluctance and hesitancy to change, we could psychoanalyze that all day. You're not desperate enough to change it. You have to really feel convicted. Like, this is not working for me and I can't take it anymore. Then you're convicted and you're desperate enough to change it because you see that there is no alternative anymore. There's no other way. You're like, the way I'm doing it, it's not working. And I'm committed to doing it differently. That's when you are ready. That's when you say, I'm ready for the change. I'm ready to try, to experiment, because now I have complete self-awareness that this is not working for me and that I need to do it differently. And I've had plenty of individuals reach out to me, and I will share one story in particular. I'll share this one story in particular of an older white man who said to me, I know I'm not a woman of color. I'm not a woman. I'm not a mom. I'm a dad, but I really loved your book. I related to a lot of it, even though I'm not your target audience. And he said, there are definitely things that I need to take a look at again, and certain things I want to do differently moving forward after reading your book. Why I found that to be so profound is it's not just because someone who's not in my target audience found it resonated and it was a man. It's because this person has read this book. So now understands a little bit more of the perspective of a Latina and a woman of color. Let's say it on paper, successful woman of color who is a mother. I say on paper, traditional notions of success, right? And he's seeing the world through her lens. Not only is he getting from the 4-part framework in the book, not only is he getting, how can I shift things for myself? How can I be more intentional with myself and what I want and who I am? but he's also getting that perspective that's different from his, and how there could be such a ripple effect, and how he interacts with other people, other women of color. It could be just women in general, other mothers, like to be understanding of that experience, to have the knowledge that you have read this other perspective and you can have that with you. Because women, we don't exist in silo, and how powerful it would be if men read books targeted to women and could understand that perspective and take it with them. So I've appreciated when white men have reached out to me and said, I really enjoyed your book, because even if you only read half of it, and one of those chapters is all about inequities in the workplace and at home, then I'm thinking this book has done its job, right? So I have so many different dreams for this book in terms of the impact it would make on people's lives. That was an unexpected one for me. I didn't see that one fully coming, because I'm all about empowering you and equipping you with the tools that you need to be your truest, most badass self, and your most confident self, and your fully expressed self. I'm thinking about you in this book. Every time I'm writing, I'm like, what is the reader going to think about this? Is this helping the reader? Is this confusing to the reader? Is this too much? Is this enough? I didn't think white men and men are going to read this book and they're going to have the perspective of a woman of color. And they're going to have the perspective of a first generation Latina. And they're going to be able to see the world through her eyes. And it's going to help them be open to different perspectives. And they're going to carry that with them. They're going to carry that with them moving forward when they meet other women of color. And maybe it will make a big difference. I'll never know. I'll never know the full difference. But that's been really powerful. If you have resonated with anything I've said so far, there is more from where that came from. Get your copy of Your Time to Rise. It is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. It is also at your local bookstore. If your bookstore does not carry it, just ask them to carry it and they will order it for you. Get your copy. Go to adivivargas.com if you need more support. And until I see you the next time on the podcast, know that you are more powerful than you can imagine. You cannot control everything, but you have so much power to control what is within your sphere of control. Until you start accessing that, you're going to keep playing defense. You're going to continue to be reactive to your life instead of leading in your life. We talk about leadership a lot in the business world. We don't talk about it enough when it comes to our personal lives. And I want you to be the leader in your life. You are more than capable of doing that. I'll see you next time.